Hi there, this is Ravi from the future. Before you watch this, I just wanted to say a couple of things. First of all, a massive thank you to Mod Iago and Mod Breezy, both fantastic, wonderful people, as you will soon find out. They gave us their entire Friday night, and we're so grateful. Secondly, this is going to be the start of a podcast, so very much just sit back and listen. You don't need to watch the screen, because all of us are just here gathering some incandescent energies. Finally, if you guys have any JMODs in particular that you want me and Maikeru to interview, just let us know down below and we'll reach out to them. Sit back and enjoy, and I hope you have the most wonderful of days. Welcome to JMOD Double Dates, a series that me and Maikeru are doing where we interview our favorite JMODs together. Today we have some pretty awesome people here. We have Mod Breezy and Mod Iago. Do you guys want to say hello? Maikeru, do you want to say hello or no?
You didn't say my name.
Well, I mean, I said, do you guys want to say hello? So,
Hello.
Hello. Okay. So, you guys want to give yourselves like a short introduction, just purely casual?
Yeah, sure, I'll go. I'm more Breezy. I'm QA on Runescape for the past 2 years now. I've been playing Runescape for the past almost 14. Started when I was about 9 years old. Yeah, that's pretty much it for me.
Where did you find RuneScape? Like, where did you find it to play it? Or did you go on the actual website? Or
I found it when I was in the playground one day, and my friends were like, do you want to come over to my place after school, and we can show you this brand new game that we're playing? It was two of my best friends who introduced me, and I went over to one of their houses, made an account. Back then you didn't need an email or anything, you just made up a username and a password. So I put that in, started my first account on Tutorial Island. Probably took us about an hour or so to get through Tutorial Island itself. And then when I was out, my friends started helping me with like a bunch of stuff. I think they found it through Miniclip at the time.
yeah, I found mine through Miniclip.
Yeah, but that's how I came to it.
That's cool.
Do you still play that account, or are you on a different account now?
No, so back then, because we didn't have any there was no security and it wasn't tied to emails.
Right, yeah.
We were all very my friends saw me type my password and stuff. There was a lot of quote unquote hacking.
Oh yes, yes,
happening back then. So I think I went through 2 or 3 accounts in the space of 2 weeks.
Right.
Before I finally stuck with one.
Yeah, dude, I completely relate to that. Like when I was younger, me and my friends were savage. Like we would hack each other and be ruthless. And
really,
yeah, dude, it was dark times, dude. Like no prisoners taken. We literally would just hack each other all the time, and it would really affect people. Yeah, those were dark times, but fun times as well.
Yeah,
so.
that didn't personally happen with me, but my brother played RuneScape as well, and I know he did it to one of his schoolmates.
What the hell? Kids are so mean, dude.
Okay, Breezy. Okay, so now because that wasn't your account, you're gonna have to answer this question. So I'm gonna put you on the spot.
Okay.
What was the account name, the first one?
Oh, dude, it was Zapdos76. I was really into Pokemon at the time, and I was like, yeah, I've got to pick a Pokemon name.
It's amazing.
You know what the funny thing is, when I joined Jagex, I was able to sort of track it down, because I completely forgot what my accounts were apart from that one, which I remembered was Zapdos, and I was just able, on the back end, I was just able to find it, and then I checked its friend list, and I found my other accounts that I also made. It was like a trip down memory lane, because I also saw some of my friends from primary school, and it was really nostalgic.
Right. Are you in touch with any of them, or not really? Is it just have any of them continued to play RuneScape up to this date? Because that's
you know what? That's the funniest thing, right? They were the ones who introduced me to RuneScape. They stopped playing it a couple years later, and here I am working at Jagex.
Yeah, same here. Yo, not working at Jagex, but that's people introduced me to it, and then they just carried on with their lives, and still being a part of my life. So, yeah, awesome, dude. Very, very nice introduction, Mr. Breezy. Mod Iago, do you want to go for it?
Sure. So yeah, I'm Mod Iago. I'm a senior quality assurance analyst at Jagex. I joined just over 3 years ago now. How long have I been playing RuneScape? I think about 14 years as well. So when I was 9 or 10, I started. It's following the same sort of questions answered asked to Breezy. This is my original account. I've been playing the entire time, which is kind of
Wow.
cool.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah, I've cherished this account.
Yeah. And just to share with others, you're 5.6 bill, aren't you?
Yeah,
So,
I am.
so you very much love this game that you work for. So pretty much dream job.
Yeah, it
Or-
really was. It really was. It kind of happened quite unexpected, to be honest. I remember a friend messaged me just one night on RuneScape, and he was like, "Hey, I had a thought, and I thought it would be good if you worked at Jagex." And I'm just like, "Okay, expand. Like, why?" And we were talking anyway. The next day, when I got on my PC, I restored my previous browser pages, and there I am on Twitter. And the first thing I see is like a post from one of the JMODs saying, "Hey, we're hiring." And I just thought,
Right. Okay.
what
So
a
you were
coincidence!
actively playing at the
Yeah,
time,
yeah.
and awesome, dude.
So
Awesome. So what position did you start in? Was it the same position you're in now,
no,
or
I started as a junior QA analyst.
right?
I hadn't worked in the industry before. I was actually a horticulturist. Um,
What do you want to explain what that is for people like me who
uh,
don't know?
and a professional gardener.
Ah,
Well, that's epic.
I spent
My mum will
4
love you.
I think I spent 4 years studying. And yeah, I went through quite a long interviews process to be successful for the job, where we went through like group exercises, the questions, all the normal, but then some group activities where we had a quest we had to play through, and it was riddled with bugs, and we had to find them, and they base it on how well you are at writing your reproduction steps and giving feedback, and how you base the severity on the issues. It was
That's
good.
pretty cool.
It was good.
That's pretty awesome. That's a very interesting
Yeah.
journey.
3 years later, here I am.
2 years later, you're also part of the Combat Council. Is that correct?
Yes, I am.
Right.
Yeah.
So do you just want to like kind of explain to maybe some people who may not know what that is?
Sure. So the Combat Council is consists of I think we're 11, maybe 12 people, and we are basically subject matter experts. Is what we call them in the industry, for people who are really familiar, whether that be with combat design, whether that be knowledge of the game mechanics and combat encounters in RuneScape, or the developers who have good knowledge of the actual system. And we're usually like go-to people if somebody is developing an update which ties into combat at all. They'll come to us and ask us for our advice and our input, and we'll discuss it as a team and as a council, and then give our thoughts, opinions, and directions back to them.
So a lot of people, a lot of the combat community, they're pretty vocal on like Twitter and stuff. So I presume like you've replied to a few of my tweets as well, which has been very helpful. But you guys are the guys that they should probably contact if they want changes, or I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, any suggestions for combat stuff, you're always free to reach out. What we usually do is we have like an agenda for each meeting. We host bi-weekly meetings. We
Right.
have an agenda where we prioritize what we're going to talk about, but they'll consist of whether that be player issues players have reached out to us with, or whether that be like I just mentioned, if somebody's making an update and they're changing combat, we add those sort of things to the agenda so we can discuss them. So yeah, we usually anything we do see, we usually add it to the agenda, and then we go through it as a team, talk about it, and then usually if it's something we approve, we'll action it, and then it's just a matter of prioritizing it.
Awesome.
Is that so? Can you talk about like what you're working on now, or is that something that's like, oh, we can't say because blah blah blah?
Ooh.
We'll remove this if this is.
Yeah. Like if this is something bad, then
yeah.
it doesn't, like, Rav can just crop it out. Like, you don't have to answer anything. I'm just wondering
Yeah.
because it would be cool cool to let people know whether you're working on something in particular that you can speak about, but you might not be able to speak about it all, or you can't speak about any of it. Then that's fair.
And let me think.
There's no pressure on you to answer that question.
Yeah, exactly. I just want to be cheeky and ask it because there's no harm in asking.
Yeah, I think it's a little more difficult for me to answer that question, just because of the role I'm in. I'm not particularly dedicated to a single project, and I'm supporting a whole team in my more senior role. So there's nothing really I can talk too much about.
Yeah, that's fine. Absolutely fine. We tried, and then that's absolutely fine. That's far as we'll push you.
Tell you what, I suppose on a it's not very exciting, but not actively working on it. But like going back to the Combat Council stuff, we had a meeting. I think it was today. This day is just completely lost. But yes, if you look at any of the recent tweets I replied to with some combat questions and suggestions that came up, we have discussed them. Things like looking at changing how Virago spam clicking works on Bring Me Down, because in duos I think it's like 20-30 seconds of spam clicking. So we discussed that.
Oh my god, you're doing that! I'm so happy. I'm literally the happiest person in the world right now, dude. Wow.
Yeah,
that is.
Sorry,
you may not think that's like a big thing, but for me and like the Raga community, it's like, whew, dude, I'm over the moon.
Yeah, it's not actively been working on, but it's something we've agreed to change. So there's
Oh yes,
it's something.
Wow.
It will happen at some point. Just needs prioritizing.
That's amazing. Do you want us to cut that out, or are we okay to keep that in? That's completely up to you.
You can keep that in.
Okay, cool. Awesome. Well, thank you very much for both your introductions. That was super, super kind of you. So let's just do a quick question round, and you guys can just like answer whatever you want, right? So like whoever just thinks of it, just say it.
Sure.
So like whatever, just answer first.
Mm-hmm.
Breezy, why are you so awesome?
No comment. I don't know.
Okay, Maikeru or Ravlar?
That's like mom and dad.
Oh right, that's
like
answer.
mom and dad. I don't know.
That's a good answer. Okay, Spider Mash or no Spider Mash?
Oh man. Oh. Spider Mash.
Okay, good. He liked to hear that, dude. Okay, Demon Slayer or Dragon Slayer?
A Dragon Slayer.
Dragon Slayer all the way.
Yeah, Dragon Slayer 100%. If someone actually picked Demon Slayer there, I'd be shocked.
Dragon Slayer is just too nostalgic. Coming in as a noob, free to play when I was like 9 years old.
That also applies to the perk as well.
Hell yeah, man! Rune plate body. Ooh.
I'd go Demon Slayer perk, to be fair.
You would?
Yeah, just because Hellhounds.
Oh, fair enough.
Oh yeah,
fair enough.
Okay, let's continue. Cash Stack or RS Guy?
Ooh, RS Guy on that one.
Oh, go on.
Cash is lovely, but
I'm gonna have to say RS Guy because I've not really spoke with Cash Stack much.
He's a bit of a noob. Don't worry about it. It's I think we're all the same, right? All going with Ryan over Cash. Maikeru, you as well?
Huh?
Don't you pretend like you didn't hear the question, Mr. Maikeru.
I'm not answering the question. I like them both.
No. Come on.
Do you mean for like challenges or just like as people?
Nah, dude, you're taking it too seriously, dude. It's fine. Don't worry.
I'll pick Ryan Stack.
Ryan Stack. Okay, there you go. Okay, pineapple on pizza or no pineapple on pizza?
No pineapple on pizza.
You guys disgust me. I'm getting the other JMODS. Where's Mod Porky? And
I'm gonna leave now.
The question should be worded: would you eat pineapple on pizza? Not necessarily like your first choice, but would you eat it?
Yeah, I'm gonna try it. I mean, I have tried it, but I wouldn't. I would like eat the whole thing, but once.
Okay, so like for example, whenever someone asks like, "Oh, should pineapple go on pizza?" Most people are like, they wouldn't pick it first, but they'll eat it if it's like the only pizza on the table.
I would eat it, but
Yeah.
Yeah. If I had a choice, it's coming off.
Yeah,
Okay.
fair.
Okay. Next question: blondes or brunettes
Oh man,
or redheads? Why don't we be inclusive?
I'm gonna skip past that and say green eyes.
Green eyes.
Green eyes.
Okay. Right. Okay.
How
Cool.
do I answer that question? I don't think I can.
Oh, you can't. You just love all of them.
Yeah, just love all of them.
Okay. Brilliant. Good answer, dude. Okay. What is your favorite NPC in the game? Ooh.
Jimmy.
That's a good one. That caught me that caught me off guard.
I want Maikeru to answer as well.
Zanuck.
Oh, but she's dead. What are you talking about?
So she doesn't always die because you can choose to kill her or spare her, and even if you choose to kill her, she comes back to life apparently. So the thing with Zanuck is really cool because you see the evolution of RuneScape through Zanuck.
Right. Okay. So that's a good next question. Kill Zanuck or keep Zanuck alive?
Kill Zanuck.
Doesn't matter, she comes back alive.
Yeah, kill Zanuck so you can bring him back alive.
Kills. She never really dies.
I don't pay attention to quests, dude. So I've killed her, and I still think she's dead. But okay. Right. Okay. Friends chat or clans chat? Dude, well, I don't know what these questions.
Clan chat all the way.
Clan chat for sure.
Okay. Cool. Favorite childhood TV show?
Damn, that's hard.
Oh.
That is hard. Can I pick two?
Yeah, you can pick two.
Oh, okay. Ed, Edd n Eddy
Oh, that's right up there, isn't it?
Ooh.
and Avatar: The Last Airbender.
That's not that. What, dude? That's not a kids' TV show. Come on.
Dude, there's a Nickelodeon. I watched it.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, that's
Okay,
a kid show.
I would think like Rugrats or Recess. You know, that's better. You know what I'm saying? But okay, fair enough.
Fair enough.
What about you, Iago?
Oh, Ed, Edd n Eddy was really good.
Well, it's overrated. Wrong check. What?
Really? What would you say then, Rav?
I'd say Recess, Jimmy Neutron. There's so many of them.
Recess
dude.
was good. Yeah.
Yeah, Recess was 10 out of 10 because we didn't have Disney Channel, but we'd be able to watch like an hour or something,
On Saturday
and
morning?
only watch
Yeah.
Recess, and it's only ever Recess, so we'd be like really happy when we could go and watch Disney Channel, and it was always Recess, and I always used to enjoy that.
Also, Kim Possible was really fit. Like, come on.
Oh my god, she's like
Shigo,
12.
bro. Shigo, bro.
Oh man, she goes fire, dude. Absolutely fire. Okay. If Voldemort offered you a hug, would you accept?
I mean, how many people come that close to Voldemort? Hell yeah.
Yeah, I know. It might be the last hug you get. But,
Yeah, it might be, but I can say I
okay.
did it.
Okay, cool. What about you, Iago?
I'm up for anything.
Up for anything.
Let's go for it. Let's do it.
Not fussy, fair.
Okay. Favorite drink of choice? What do we buy you when we meet you at Runefest? Or
Are we talking alcoholic drinks?
yeah,
or
of course.
Just, you know,
Why not both?
why not both?
Yeah.
I'm a rum guy. I'm also a cider guy. So honestly,
What cider?
I tend to go for like Kopparberg or
Oh,
what's it called? I
Mm,
forgot.
Oh yeah, I remember. I should remember this,
Yeah.
but I don't remember.
I
you
love
should remember.
Kopparberg, man.
Oh man, drunk Ravi and drunk Breezy. I think Breezy's seen the worst of me.
Yep. Yeah, I think so.
Comment is yes. Right. Okay.
I think I'd have to go for, if we're talking spirits, either Southern Comfort or like Amaretto de Serrano.
Well, Amaretto's nice.
Yeah.
I know Maikeru's a vodka Red Bull guy. That's what he told me to buy him.
Yeah, vodka Red Bull, you can't go wrong with, right?
Yeah, vodka Red Bulls. I mean, yeah, I don't mind that. I like vodka. You know, if you want the best drink ever, it's so underrated, and it gets people smashed so quickly. You get vodka and you get mango juice. You don't taste the mango juice, and you just get lit. We do not encourage drinking on this podcast, but yeah, just some information out there, right?
Everything in moderation. Huh?
Everything in moderation, absolutely. Okay, this next question is really important to me, so think before you answer it, okay? Dogs or cats?
Dogs.
Dogs.
Yeah,
Dogs.
good answer. Good answer. Yay. I'm really happy that I'm really
Cats aren't pets, in my opinion. They just like go out and do their own thing.
I mean, don't get me wrong though. Like cats are cute as hell. but dogs win in this one.
Dogs always win.
Hmm.
Have you ever slapped someone in the face?
Oh yes.
Yes.
Dude, I have 4 siblings.
Oh,
Are these questions from your chat?
no. I'm
Oh, okay. Because Breezy beforehand was like, you can get suggestions from your stream. I thought
Yeah,
this
I've
was just
got those as
everything the
well.
stream said.
Like, okay, I'll get one from the stream. Like, literally, Midnight Hour asks, "Are you either of you single?" Which is, you don't have to answer that if you don't want to.
I mean, yeah.
Yes.
Not for long.
Well, this
Well, this is a
dates
double
for,
date,
right?
so,
Yeah.
If this double
Yeah,
date
true.
goes well, then we'll see how it goes. Do you like the smell of petrol?
dude. Yes, it's
Yeah.
like weird, but yeah.
Yeah.
Anytime you're at a gas station,
Wind down your windows a
it's
little.
all yeah, exactly. It's on the
Every time he's at a gas station, you'll see him sniffing the pumps.
Oh my god! If you're really hungry, would you eat a bug?
No.
No,
What happens is nothing else? Would you eat a bug?
no.
No.
Okay. What sound does a seal make?
I mean, I'm not gonna imitate.
Why not? That's the whole point, dude.
I feel like my laugh is kind of doing it already.
Okay, there you go.
When you were asked to come onto a chat with Rav, did you expect these to be the questions?
Not that one.
Okay, right. Okay. Tell me something embarrassing you've done.
Oh, okay. I've got one prepared because we usually get asked it when new people join Jagex and we introduce ourselves. We sometimes get asked to share something embarrassing, so I have one prepared. This one time, a girl I was into was texting me at night, and she was also texting her parents at the same time, but I didn't know that she was. So she sent me some kisses. I was like, oh shit. I was like, okay, cool. Sent her some kisses back, and then she sent another message right after that was like smiley faces, and it was like, sorry, I didn't mean to send that.
Oh, awkward.
Yeah, I was like, oh, okay.
Maybe that was something that she did on purpose, dude. You know, some girl's evil out there. You know who you are.
She might be. I mean, she's like one of my best friends now, so you know.
Okay. Well, fair enough.
Okay, so this is a little longer than Breezy's, but about I'm gonna say it was 2 years ago now. It was my first place when I moved up to Cambridge. I was living in a house share, and I had the ground floor apartment, and there was no windows in this place. It was I just had patio doors, and I woke up. I had an ensuite bathroom, but it wasn't actually properly an ensuite. It was like just outside my bedroom door, but nobody else was allowed to use it. And I got up in the morning, getting ready for work, needed a shower. Luckily, I opened my patio doors, so we're going to start with that. I went in, had a shower, and then I tried to get back into my bedroom, and the door wouldn't open.
Oh no.
Bear in mind, all I took out with me was a towel.
Oh no.
So I spent, like 5 minutes trying to fight with the bedroom door, trying to open it, whilst, one of my housemates came down, trying to explain myself. And it turns out, the only way getting back in was climbing over about a 7-foot wall out the back garden. So I had to pull a wheelie bin round, climb on top of the wheelie bin whilst just in a towel, climb over my over the wall, and then into my room. And that was obviously, I had houses backing onto the back garden, so if they were watching, they had a nice reveal.
Brilliant, dude. They shouldn't be watching. They should keep their nosy noses out of it, dude. But yeah, really good story. Mike, do you have any speedy questions for them that you want to ask?
So what is your favorite thing about working at Jagex? I know it's like a work-related question, but still.
Mm-hmm.
That's a big one because there's a lot of reasons. I think for me it was a dream that was fulfilled. Like, so as soon as I started playing, I was pretty much around the same time that I was getting really into wanting to do art, animation, and all like graphic design and stuff. And I remember like drawing. I got like a canvas as a birthday present once, and I was like drawing what I wanted to see as a Varrock graphical rework. and then like years later, I've like realized part of my dream and actually worked here now. That's wild. And yeah, but there's so many things that come with it that make that good as well. Being able to work in a game that you love from your childhood, being able to interact with the community, work with players as closely as we do, is really fun.
So like, what's your background for people that may not know? Like, did you study computer science or?
Yeah, I did game design at uni,
Right, yeah.
and in and of itself, I wasn't actually sure if I wanted to do game design. So I started off wanting to do animation when I was younger. That grew into graphic design, which eventually grew into what I know now as environment art. So I applied for uni when I was like 16 or so, and I sort of took a browse at the courses in the universities that were in my city. And there was only one games course. Well, two. There was a game software development one and a games design one, and I picked game design. In the end, when the letter came through that I was accepted, it was only then I actually realized why I picked.
Right. Yeah.
But I love it because design is the sort of thing that where like you get an overview of a lot of things. So I picked that. Graduated a couple years back, and then I think like a month after graduating, I got a job as a researcher slash developer. So I worked at a different university to my one. It was only like 5 minutes down the road from that one. But basically, I made virtual reality and augmented reality apps for the architecture department and their clients. So we had like different companies that come to us and ask us to make like prototypes. They'd get some funding from the government. It might have been small businesses and whatnot at the time. And we did some stuff in VR and AR for that, which was cool. At the same time, though, my manager was one of the lecturers as well. So I also got to lecture his class, which was great because I graduated at 20, and I was lecturing people who were like 22, 23. And I was like, yeah, this feels pretty cool. I finished that like 9 months later because my contract had run out. And then I got into contact with one of my previous lecturers, and he was like, we need someone to cover for us. Do you mind coming to take a few classes? We'll pay you on the hour. So I was like, sure. Did that until the semester ended. And then when that ended, I pretty much just went onto the Jagex website. It's like, okay, there's QA there. Went on to a few other games companies to like check out their job listings and then like reviews and stuff and whatnot. And eventually I just applied for Jagex. About a week later, I got a call from HR, from recruitment. Another week later, I got a call from one of my previous managers, Mod Stacy, called me actually, alongside Mod Shogun as well, which is a story in and of itself.
Oh, shut
And then, yeah, and then a week later, I was invited down to Cambridge for a group interview, and then like 2 weeks later, I was in Germany and I got a call saying that I got the job.
Oh, well, that must have been awesome, dude.
Mm-hmm.
And you started working on the mining and smithing rework, right?
Yeah, into the deep end.
Yeah.
There was 4 of us who started at the time. So it was myself, Mod Shrew, Mod Camel, and I believe his name was Mod Titan. He's no longer at Jagex. He was on contract at the time. But yeah, the 3 of us started, and we all got sent to different. We all started as junior QA, and we all got sent to different teams. And I got sent to the mining and smithing team.
Awesome. Do you want to share the Mod Shogun story, or not really?
Oh well, yeah. So if you know Mod Shogun personally, he likes to exaggerate a lot of things. Yeah. So basically, when I was in the call with Mod Stacy, she said, it's me, and I've got someone else next to me. She said Mod Shogun's real name. I was like, okay, cool. I don't know who that is. That's cool. And then near the end of the interview, they were like, we've got some questions for you, and Mod Shogun started asking me. But when he asked me, I was like, I recognize that voice because I've been watching RuneScape streams. I think Safecracking came out near that time as well, so he was on stream a couple times. And I was like, is that Mod Shogun by any chance? He was like, yeah. That was it, right? That was the question. That was all. A couple of months later, I come back. We're in the kitchen. And he's telling everyone. He was like, "Oh my god, is that Mod Shogun?" And I was like, "That's not how it happened."
Sounds very much like Mod Shogun.
Yeah.
Mod Shogun has like a deep-rooted hatred for Harry Potter. So
he has a deep-rooted hatred for a lot of things. He's a very opinionated person, but he's great, and he actually ended up becoming my mentor. In QA for all. He's a lovely guy.
Yeah, he's very active in the community and stuff as well, which is great to see.
He's been one of my closest friends since joining Jagex, and he's always a massive support. He's such a lovely guy.
Definitely.
Very friendly guy, for sure.
He always comes into my Clue streams. It seems like he watches Clue streams more than others, and then he'll always tell me that one day he's going to make a puzzle that all one can't solve, and then we'll chat about something else randomly, and then he'll not see him again, and then he'll speak up again in another Clue stream. I'm going to make a puzzle that all one cannot solve. Like every time, I love it. It's great. Just makes me happy.
Yeah, he's great.
All right, it's Alt 1 toolkit. Yes or no? That's another question for you guys.
I mean,
that's a good question, actually.
Yeah, I use it. Yeah.
Do you see it as like a bad thing or a good thing for the game?
I mean, it in general doesn't really do too much that's like bad. Like, I can't speak on the security of it and whatnot. Like that stuff.
Yeah, of course.
To me, isn't really like in my department really. But just in terms of what it does, like I don't think, like as far as I know what it does, I don't think it does anything that gives people too much of an advantage.
Right?
Yeah, because like like things like the Meg help or whatever that like lets you answer Meg. You could just do that by going to the wiki.
Mm-hmm.
And things like AFK Warden are pretty handy. Again, I don't see that as like something that I mean, obviously, like everyone who plays Clues uses it.
Yeah.
Well, I say everyone. I don't know like the data on that, but it's a pretty handy tool for doing clues. Yeah.
I think there's different levels to it. Like the clue, for me personally, this is my own opinions, but I think the clue scroll one is a bit too much.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you go and do a clue scroll without it, and time the difference, it's substantial.
Yeah, it's substantial for masters, I would agree, but the others not so much.
What about the sliding puzzles, dude? Like
sliding puzzles take me about 2 to 3 times longer if I do it myself.
Yeah, so that adds up.
But you only get like one sliding puzzle over like 3-4 clues. So in total, you're still going to get a lot. It depends. If I'm falling behind on chat, I'll get like a billion sliding puzzles so that I can't interact with my stream. But otherwise, it's okay.
Yeah, I mean, there's certain features in it which are pretty nice. Like if you're doing AOD, the AOD minion tracker, just so you don't have to keep scrolling up in your chat or memorize them. It's nice to have that information on screen when you need it.
But yeah, I do agree on the clue front though. That's the most strong,
controversial one, I guess.
Yeah, and controversial. Yeah, most OP and controversial one is the clue one. No one really ever moans about AFK Warden. No one ever really moans about like saying you could just wiki or whatever.
Question for you guys: are clue scrolls balanced around Alt 1? Do you think?
I don't think the original ones were. I can't actually answer that with confidence. So take this with a pinch of salt. I think the original ones weren't, and then the clue scroll rework happened, and it was always a consideration.
Right.
In general, I'm going to say no.
Okay.
Because I mean, we shouldn't be balancing based on some third-party software, which isn't accessible or to everyone, or going to be, not everybody knows about it, right?
Yeah, because Mac users use it, etc. So like it does like alienate a part of the community for sure. But yeah, thanks for answering that. That's awesome. Kind of leads on to the next question because we talked about clues as a piece of content. What is your favorite piece of content to watch from content creators, if you do watch? And if you say level locked, I will ban you.
I mean, you said it.
Go ahead.
That's a good question actually. I quite like to watch when it comes to live streams. I find bossing to be sort of the most engaging, depending on what it is, of course. And clues are sometimes nice to watch, just because it's kind of chill and you just enjoy the chat. When it comes to YouTube, though, that really like. I quite like watching level guides just because I like to see and keep up with what people consider to be the sort of metas, what strategies and optimizations people use. But then there's also like the other types of videos of like sort of like top 10 of this, top 10 of that, and then there's also the videos that are just covering topics about RuneScape. You know, there's various ones that you've done, for example, Rav or Mike, that will cover like the state of RuneScape, new updates, etc. Which are always interesting to watch for feedback and getting to know people's thoughts and opinions.
That's a cool one. Like when you watch, so for example, I'm guessing Iago, you are part of the Combat Council and stuff, right? So you had probably a fair amount of input within the Tier 92 armor update and stuff. Did you watch people's videos when that came out to gauge interest or reactions, or do you not do that?
Sure. That is something, especially with an update, which is handled like within the company anyway. We have procedures for that. We'll have a team, for getting, understanding the sentiment, reading the sentiment, getting feedback and passing it on, etc. CM are heavily involved in things like that. So for specific updates, like that, which I might not have been fully involved with, then it depends. I might just jump onto YouTube and see it recommended, and then I'll watch it. If it's my own, so the last big project I worked on was archaeology, and I spent a crazy amount of time just watching Twitch streams and watching YouTube videos and reading Reddit, reading things in Discord, probably straight from the minute I finished work to end of day, like for 2-3 weeks straight. And then less frequent than that, but that continued for a while. I mean, even now, if I see something come up, I'll still watch it.
Right.
That's cool. I feel like that's something that a lot of players don't realize, because like when you release an update, it's not just an update, it's something that you've put like passion into, so it's nice to gauge that reaction, right?
Yeah, I mean, like that's why a lot of people like come into the industry to, like, I picked to do game design and come into the industry because I love to make a product that is eventually going to reach people's hands, and seeing their reaction is the payoff. That is the ultimate payoff. Is seeing how people react to it. Like, even if it's bad, like that's still a reaction, right? That's still a learning. Yeah. But like seeing people seeing moments where people go, wow, like I didn't know that, where they like those sort of pog moments, those parts where they're happy, where they might get confused with something that's really obvious in the chat's going like, you gotta do this, you gotta do this, whatever it might be. I think that's like the ultimate payoff is seeing that. And I think like I can say with a good bit of confidence that like pretty much everyone in like the general content teams will keep up with what players are putting out in terms of like content like that. We might not all comment on it specifically, like as sole developers and whatnot, but there's always discussions going on and whatnot. But like as Iago says, whenever the team behind it does it, I think they're the ones that are the most invested, because you put in hours, months of work into it, and you want to know what people are saying and how they're playing it, and
I think just to touch on that a little more, it's really important. Like, if for anybody listening to this, that you're obviously, sometimes we see people get quite negative with their feedback, and often we try and read that with like they're just being passionate, they're just showing how much they care. And that is a case a lot of the time, but how much it actually means to us when it's delivered in a more constructive way, because a lot of us are very, very, very passionate, and we will invest a lot of time into reading threads and watching videos and streams. So we're, in a way, I have phases where I just disconnect completely because it can get too much.
100%. Yeah, I've definitely like I definitely agree with Iago there. I don't think I've ever been burnt out of RuneScape more than I have being a JMOD.
Right.
And that's just because like it takes a lot of energy, one, to just make the content, and then a lot of energy to then like sort of inhale all the feedback, not even just the negative, just everything else that comes with it. and obviously like the negative stuff can affect you even more. Like, like there's various projects that might be might shift in their vision. They might not be received well. They might have just been shelled or cancelled, like weapon diversity, for example. And that's obviously the community is passionate behind certain things, but so are we at the same time. And there's also a lot of burnout, and I can't find the word for it, but it takes a lot out of you when your own projects get that. Like when weapon diversity was shelled, for example, that was it was quite a sad moment for a lot of us who were involved, because
Right.
we all, like we believe in it. We want to see it to the end, but if the feedback comes back or things have to change, that's just how it is. Like last year, I went through quite a bit of that.
Yeah.
I was on CompKeeper work, for example, weapon diversity, sort of back to back actually. And you want to see both of them do well. You want to put your all into it and make people happy. But that's that's quite a hard thing to do, right?
Yeah.
There's so many voices and opinions, and when things don't go the way that you want sometimes, or the way that the players want, it's quite disheartening. It's quite it's disencouraging, I guess. It takes a lot of energy out of you when you put a lot into it, and then in the end, it's like, yeah, things are gonna change. They're not gonna go quite how we felt.
That's only natural, right? If it didn't, then it means you didn't care, right? So that's very much like
Oh
a
yeah,
very natural response that you do care. So what people think, and you're putting passion into your work, you're taking pride in it, and I think that's something the community can get a lot better at. Is like there's a lot of expectation and demand, and it's fine. We've had a lot of good content in the past, so I think people hold people to that expectation that this is the standard that you set before, so you should follow it. But I think the kind of thing, like, take it. If you want to be constructive, you can be constructive.
Yeah,
If you want to be destructive, then, which a lot of people are, they just rant without either giving a solution or giving specific things that could, that they would want to see changed. Like, I think that needs to change amongst the community.
to a degree. The only thing there that is, I'd say, somewhat controversial, probably from we don't expect somebody to give us the solution. Like,
yeah,
Right.
it's part of our job to find these solutions and what's best for everybody, even if it, because sometimes a solution will be biased towards one type of play style.
Right. Yeah.
So I think the most important thing is that out of this is that know that we're always watching, we're always reading, even if we might not be
Right.
replying.
Hmm.
Sometimes it's because we might feel burnt out, but we've still got that overview, right? So we're still
Yeah.
going to read things. This, as well as that, I've seen some people who say to me, and I think you said it earlier on stream, Rev, that a certain JMOD was kind of hard to get hold of. That I think that's usually probably the cycles where we're working on a project for a while and then we release it. So we come back to social media, we start engaging, so we can get feedback, action it.
Right.
Say, hey,
Right.
we've recognized this is an issue, and I am working on it right now to fix it. Because in our development cycle, we have a phase after release of a project where we have time dedicated to fix anything that comes up with it.
Right. Okay. That's really good. That sounds like a sustainable process where, you release something and then you work on anything that comes out of it. So one thing that you guys mentioned is like, when you get the feedback, like, for example, with weapon diversity, I really feel, you put a lot into it and scrapping it really must have hurt you guys. But wouldn't a better way of doing things be where you get the feedback on the idea first, whether people like it? I mean, I've mentioned polls a lot. I don't know if polls are necessarily 100% correct solution because they have their flaws. Like, would it not be better to get the feedback first before diving into it? And I know you guys are often like working on it, and sometimes it's just given to you on a plate. But do you not think that's a more constructive way of going around things?
I think it's quite hard to sell a concept. Like, I guess it depends how you approach it. If you, this is a really big topic, right? Because like this in and of itself could be like 2, 3, or 4 streams. But like, a poll doesn't work where you want to ask people for their
Right.
feedback. Like I don't think you could poll weapon diversity when you first pitch it, because you're like, well, I don't know anything about the
Right.
update. All you're telling me is that you want to give weapons an
Yeah.
effect, but what you're not telling me is what those effects are, how it's going to affect me, how it's going to affect my day to day, how it's going to affect my bank. You know, like all those sort of things haven't been discussed yet. So it's hard for a player to come to that and understand, yes, I want this, or no, I don't, because what weapon diversity could have been a million different things, right? And that was also part of the feedback as well. Is like, maybe we don't need weapon diversity. Maybe we need like a monster weakness change,
Right.
for example, or things like that. So it's kind of hard to sell a concept, just because it could could mean anything, and to truly give people the power to say yes or no, you have to give them enough
Right.
information. If we don't have that, then I don't think that can work very well.
Yeah, I think you can always come out with the wrong answer as well if you decide too early on. If we did a poll system like that where you don't have all the information, we would have to fully design it either way. So it's part of prototyping, right? And it differs per project. Like for a new skill with archaeology, we did prototyping of different skills. We did the research and investigation into how different skills might look and play out. And we did do we had different research groups where we had different players from different backgrounds, so people who'd never played RuneScape before come in and go through a prototype build of what archaeology could look like, as well as other skills. And they're all so yeah, it depends per project, and that will obviously influence your decision on what route you take, which then, from archaeology's perspective, we then went on to a phase 2 where we're building it with building more features into it, building the designs, reward spaces, getting a better understanding of what they might look like. And then that leads on to doing internal testing, where we have loads of different play styles in the groups, like or in Jagex, where we have high level players, we have mid-level, low-level people who have never played before, some people who have never played games before that might be working in a department where it's not necessary. And that all then, it's a long process, and it really depends per project. Archaeologies was quite long. I think we did a stream at some point, which you could probably find on the RuneScape YouTube, where we talked about the development of archaeology, if you're interested, and it goes into a lot more detail.
I think so sort of tagging on to that point, in a very weird way, I think weapon diversity was successful, because the player said it wasn't something that they wanted in game, and it didn't happen. So it was
Right.
successful in that
Yeah.
sense, right? And that's because we were able to give a prototype
Yeah.
to players for a beta, which is, you could almost argue it's another form of
Yeah.
polling. Is actually giving it to people and saying, look, how do these feel,
Oh,
and how do
absolutely.
you
I
think it
agree. Yeah.
contributes to the game? And then if the overwhelming feedback is, look, this isn't going to work, then that beta was
Yeah, I agree
successful.
with you.
You
That was
know,
something that was done quite well. Like, I really like the fact that we could have tested it, and people found out, for example, like javelins were really overpowered, etc. And the feedback was there, and give them.
yeah, there's a few bugs with those
Yeah,
as
but
well.
like that's the
for
whole
sure.
point. Like I think the community would
Yeah.
accept the fact that there'd be bugs on a beta server, and like that's 100% okay. I think beta servers are very interesting because, like, I think for you guys, there's finding a balance between exciting a player about not knowing what's going to come, and exploring things, and just
Yeah.
getting feedback straight away. It's a very hard balance, and I think that's probably the toughest part for some decision makers.
And that's another drawback of polls, right? Because you don't want to say every single thing that's going to be coming out. Some stuff are nice to be surprised.
Yeah.
So, like, if they poll everything, then nothing will be a surprise.
Yeah. Both ways of working have been proven to work, so I don't think there is a right or a wrong answer here. It just has to be taken per product, per feature, per piece of content. It's difficult. I think not sure how much I want to touch on this, but I think some things which we've typically found a little what's the word I want to use? So I'll skip that and say with weapon diversity as an example, because there was obviously a lot of time invested into designing it, getting a prototype of weapons, investing the dev, the QA time into it, building the beta, getting the feedback for it, and then saying no. That was a lot of work which isn't wasted. Like Breezy said, it was Steam successful because we got to the right result in the end, and we failed fast.
Right.
Yep.
But it does mean that there was a team who were working on something which was never shipped, and now there is a gap.
Right.
Why
Yep.
isn't there content coming from that? That one team working on it.
Okay.
So I think that's the hard part of those decisions. Is we have to say, we're not going to release this because we don't think it's right for the game, and thanks for your feedback as well. That was critical in coming to that decision. But at the same time, this does now mean that you're not going to have like this piece of content from this. The content this team is trying to deliver is going to be pushed back because they're going to have to start working on something new.
Yeah, it's quite risky, right? Like admitting to that, like sort of well, sorry, not admitting, but like just accepting that that's a fact. The fact that we're going to commit a team to this for a couple of months, and it might not ship, and then because of that, there's that, as Iago said, there's a gap there. I mean, I remember being in the meeting actually where we discussed the cancelling of the project. And I've never been in a meeting so depressing because not a single person there was happy with like doing it. We were all pretty distraught with doing it. I remember it was me, Shawnee, Mod Osborne. I think Mod Iago was there, Mod Timbo, and no one was like happy about it. We were all pretty like, and it was a hard decision to come to. I think at one point Osborne was like, okay, then what's the conclusion? And it just fell silent because we didn't want to say that we're gonna
we can't give something to, because that's what we want to do, right? Like ultimately with archaeology, when it released, honestly the thing that put the biggest smile on my face the entire time was when I just logged in and I just saw people everywhere just running around, and it's just seeing people engaged is so rewarding.
I can imagine.
And we want to give people stuff, it's just there's these hurdles we've got to cross, and ultimately to come to the right decision. But sometimes there is these consequences, if you want to call it that. Probably not the right word, but
for sure. I mean, we can tell that just by speaking to you. Like, you're passionate about things, and we really feel that. I guess that sometimes that, like on Twitter and stuff, it may not come across, but like you said, you're always watching, you're always listening. I think people in the community just want, JMODS to be like, to give a lot more than they potentially can give in terms of.
It's really hard because, like, as a single person, you cannot commit the entire team to something, right? Like, there's so many times where we're like, you'll scroll past something, we'll read it, and we'll we're like, well, we want to reply, like, but replying has so many implications, that it can be taken in the wrong way sometimes, or there's too much to expect from it. Realistically, like, none of the devs really, and none of the QA and whatnot, have the power to just change something and walk into the office the next day we're gonna do this, right? There's processes we're gonna have to go through. There's priorities we're gonna have to shift around if a change has to be made. It comes to like discussions of, for example, if people are working on projects, can they take time out of that project to approach this problem, right? And so on and so forth. Like, there's so many strings attached to even one simple change that it can be very hard to comment on a tweet or Reddit post. As much as we care, we just can't put the team in RuneScape at that sort of
I completely
risk.
get that, because like you said,
definitely,
like if for example the Reddit goes crazy when a JMod, for example, may try to do that and it may not be delivered, for example, right? And that's the worst thing that can happen, because it makes it sounds like a false promise, but the JMOD's literally just trying to be like, look, just trying to give some reassurance, etc. But yeah, I completely see from that point of view, and something I'm opening my eyes to that. Something I probably hadn't seen from a point of view I hadn't seen from before. I think so.
Yeah, I think another thing is people expect too much because the amount of people that I have that say, Jagex doesn't communicate enough or there isn't enough talking. But like, if I look at any other game, I can't think of any game company that interacts with their player base as much as like the JMODs do. Like, obviously there could be more, sure. Like, people want more, that's understandable that they want more. But if you compare it to like near enough any other game out there, like the communication is way more often than like anything else. And I always get really, really I don't know, I get really, really shocked when people say like you've got poor communication or you don't talk enough when there's like always so much communication compared to other places. And in the past there was lack of communication, maybe like I would say probably maybe like 3 years ago or something, there was a bit of an issue there. But ever since then, like the communication's been really, really good. So I think people just expect too much nowadays.
Yeah, I also just add on to that and say that sometimes it's not our place to speak on certain things. Again, just because we're like, I might not be in the team that's involved with a specific thing, or I'm like, none of us are CM. So for us to act as CM is really wrong of us in a sense, because CM are there to provide that channel and provide that provide that channel of discussion and enact that community engagement. For us to enact that when we haven't been trained in that sort of thing, and we're not within their team, we're not within their discussions, it wouldn't be fair of us to comment on like various topics when they're not even aware we're doing it, because all of us are using Twitter on our phones and stuff. It's personal devices, right? That's so in respect to other teams and whatnot, it's not really right of us to go out of our way and put other people on the line as well.
Exactly, yeah. But like just the CMs in general and stuff, the replies on Reddit and stuff on Twitter and even like just news posts and stuff, it's more than a lot of companies offer. And I'm always like kind of shocked when people are like, oh, they're not talking to us when you've literally just said something or something like that, you know?
I think communication in general, like I think I mentioned this before at some point, is that the quantity of communication from Jagex is always like, I think, industry leading. Like there's always some sort of contact with some sort of JMOD, a weekly live stream, or like Mod Porky and Mod Stu are doing the going back to Tutorial Island. I think people probably have issue with the meaningful communication, where they want their questions answered. Sorry, and the communication that currently exists, etc. I don't think that personally, I don't think like that fulfills all of the criteria that it should, and that's probably a really tough thing to do because, like you said, you want to give us answers sometimes, but the implications of that are huge, and you're not only putting the pressure on yourself, you're putting pressure on 4 or 5 other people working on that. So, yeah, it's a tough one for sure.
But we don't have knowledge of everything going on either, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
there's a lot going on. There's a lot of design decisions that if you weren't on the project, you might not know. Even with the archaeology, I was on that project from the beginning, and because it's such a long project, I even forget things. Like it's only natural, right? So sometimes in the moment we might not be able to answer it as much as we're like, it's turning over in our head. Like, what was that? We want to, but it's about not putting people on the spot and not giving the wrong answer, because that can be more harmful than it is just replying to it and giving an answer. Like, yeah, I wanting to interact more is just, it's human, right? It's only natural. So I don't think things like that ever really bother me when I see, I wish you interacted more with us. Like, that's great. I'm glad you want to talk with us.
I don't think you can blame anyone. I don't really think you can blame anyone for wanting to speak, right? I mean, like, and depending on the scenario, people do deserve that communication. So I can never really blame anyone, because if I was in that same spot, I I would probably be in the want that same thing too, for sure.
For sure. Maybe, I mean, thank you so much for sharing that, because like that is very much from the POV of a JMOD that, you know, like we don't see that, right, obviously, right? We see it from a completely different point of view where, you know, for example, people would be complaining about something and there'd be no response, but something that, you know, we've really clarified today is like it's very much taken on board, and we've discussed the reasons why sometimes, you know, they can't be like so. That sort of thing, I think, will go a long way in helping people understand a bit more about your positions and what you can and say and what you can't say.
Yeah, I hope so, and I think like even just this discussion, right? When this YouTube video goes out, I am gonna be reading this comment.
Yep.
And I am going to be taking on the feedback that's given.
Right.
You know, I'm going to be reading it and digesting it. And you know, we might have said one or two things which aren't right, but again, that's only natural, right? Like, and I will now read that feedback and I'll say, all right, okay, I agree with that. Maybe I should have said that differently, and we'll learn and we'll take it on to the next one. Yeah,
For sure.
People need to remember that everyone's human as well, right? So like, there's only so much you can give and only so much you can take with everything, and that goes with like all elements of it. So people sometimes just they get so passionate about the game and what they want, and they want it to succeed, that they then forget about those type of stuff.
For sure.
it's great to have such a passionate community, though. Like that's to wrap it all up.
Yeah.
Like everyone's just passionate, and that's a brilliant thing that like a game can bring people together in such a way.
For sure. One thing that Breezy mentioned is like the role of CM. I find that really interesting, like where it's very much their role to communicate, like, you know, updates on things, etc. So that's another kind of like dynamic which I didn't really understand until now. So sometimes you very much want to say something and you're like, you know, maybe I shouldn't say it, maybe we should wait for CM. So that's interesting. That's something else which I've learned today.
Exactly.
So that's pretty. Yeah, I think it's a dynamic which is not understood.
Yeah, because there's just so many of us, right? How do you track which person put out a bit of news, and that is to have it more controlled and come from a few people is better than having it come from everyone. And I know that's happened in the past. You know, you have certain people on Twitter, Reddit, which will just drop a little hint to something, and I'd argue that's fine to an extent, depending on what that news is. But for the most part, it's always better to let the people who are in the know do their thing.
Yeah,
for sure. Sure. Okay, well, that was pretty awesome. So moving on to like a slightly different topic, and because Iago worked on archaeology, when you watched people play it for the first time, did they kind of like take the strategies and stuff that you thought they would, like, or did people surprise you with how they approached it?
So typically with a lot of content, we are always expecting to be surprised. I think bossing encounters specifically, right? They're more so than any others. They will like, honestly, my favorite thing to date is the group vengeance. The team that used group vengeance at Solak in the final phase. that blew my mind. I really wasn't expecting that, and I still love it to this day, because at the time group vengeance didn't have a damage cap on it. So when they took like 30k damage or something, all of them reflected that damage. It was crazy. When it comes to something like archaeology, there was so much thought. So like it was such a long period an effort we put into the skill from a design perspective, play testing it. We did longevity testing in-house for quite a long time, where we had people just playing on their like a copy of their tube account just on a side screen, and then sometimes getting involved and playing it actively for an hour here and there, and to gather all the feedback. So we did know what to expect. I guess the difference comes then with how people like we know. I guess with a skill, it's more focused around the balancing, where it can be a little unpredictable. Like we had the XP rates for every single in like hotspot you went to, every excavation spot. how many projects you get per hour at that if you were like at level 120 and you went to a level 5 hotspot. So that stuff, not so much because we knew what they were. I guess the bit which I wasn't sure of was, are people going to do pylons to 120 or 200 mil, or are they going to do tetra compasses? But again, this is balancing, right? We will release a piece of content like Lost Grove Creatures, which they have different. They have some which give less XP but more GP, and then there's some which give more GP but less XP for killing them. So stuff like that, it's just based on your playstyle. Like if you care about making more money per Slayer task, then that's the one to go and kill. And these things we predict and we balance around. And yeah, I don't know if that really answered your question.
Yeah, for sure.
When it comes to archaeology, did you guys have like expectations of how long it would take for like the first 200 mil and stuff? And were you correct on your expectations as well?
I can't remember, if I'm honest.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember.
That's absolutely fine. No worries. That's a pretty nice insight into the whole process. So you mentioned like being surprised by players. This is probably something which I think a lot of people will be interested. What else has like surprised JMODS? Like how players have been innovative in the past? Is there anything that comes to mind?
Ripper demons.
Right. Okay.
You know, the when that method come out of using a cannon.
Yeah.
Like, nah, no way, no way. I don't. There's loads of examples like that. I think. There's loads of examples. Like it definitely happens, and you know we might release a new, reward or something which has an effect somewhere or across loads of places, but we just didn't expect a certain player to use it in combination with X, Y, and Z.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of some examples. I don't know if you've got any, Breezy.
No, I've been trying to think, but I can't.
I'm
I
sure
can't
it will come
really.
to mind like later on at some point.
Yeah, I doubt.
Yeah.
I remember Mod
Yeah.
Orion saying like when people were using Dominion mines at ED1 for like the crystals and stuff like that. He was like, I was not expecting that, but that was pretty cool.
Yeah, again, just when Dominion mines started becoming a thing again,
Yeah.
it's like, where did that come
Yeah.
from?
Dominion mines are pretty
And
bog. I like them. Yeah.
Yeah, they are. They are pretty good.
They're nice.
Very. I think like it's always nice to see like forgotten pieces of content being like revived and like having nice uses.
And I remember when I got my Eldritch, I figured out like when I was specking and stuff, I was just chilling, and then I put down Dominion Mines like ED2, and then the Dominion Mines dealt extra damage to the spec, and I had no idea, and I was like, "What the hell?" So I was like even more like excited to always use my Dominion Mines because I could deal like extra damage and stuff. It's just so fun with like little things like that happen.
I mean, the Eldritch is probably a good example, where you know we will design and prototype and make a special attack like that, and we will have an idea of where it might be used, but we won't have the full
Right.
picture. But I think that's part of the fun.
Yeah.
That's the good part,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
When you, because like we do account for certain things that most people might not even know about, and then people will experiment. Like that's as part of design, we'll do that. But then there's the flip side of it where there's things we haven't accounted for, and then those things emerge, and those are really nice.
For sure.
Yeah.
Like I honestly didn't expect that. I mean, I haven't done Nex in a quite a long time, but I didn't expect the meta to become just soul split the entire game.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
When you just think about that, it's like, ooh, that's a lot of damage.
Well, we've already spoken for an hour and 15, but I have some more questions if you guys are still down.
Hell yeah, yeah, definitely.
Right. So, what's your favorite boss in game? That's
Ooh,
Oh.
that's a good question. There's there's a handful of complex bosses which I really like. I mean things like Telos, Rago, and Yaka speak out most. But I think Yaka's my favorite. I think because of how dependent you are on a team as well, because your team also has to be generally on the ball. I think pretty much everyone's had a bad experience at raids, right? I've been the cause of some of those, but
That's
just yeah, I think what most people don't really think about, but is actually very true, is that you don't just need a team, you need teamwork, and that sometimes gets lost in translation when you're just playing and everyone's just doing their thing. But when someone messes up, you definitely know
Who it is.
why it is. Yeah, and the fact that like Yaka is, I'm not sure how people would really like what everyone's opinion is on how complex it is, but I think it is pretty complex.
Yaka's my favorite boss as well.
Yeah, and like just the amount that goes into it, the amount of teamwork, and then the payoff at the end.
Yeah.
Is really fun.
If I was gonna say my favorite boss ever, especially with longevity in mind, it would have to be Virago.
Yes, good answer. Good answer.
However, nowadays I don't do much of it.
Yeah. We need to change that.
I would say, mechanically, it's gonna be a mix between Yaka and Solak.
Right.
I find Solak is it's a really good boss, but hybriding it gets tiring quick. It gets tiring very quick, to the point 2 hours at most, and I'm like, no, I can't do anymore. I've got to do something else. But mechanically, like the team coordination was obviously a big part in designing it. There's so many moments where things can just go a little wrong to very wrong. You might lose somebody, and you're like, it's fine, we can still do the final phase, and then just before the final phase, somebody else dies, and then you're like, right, we're 2 down now. Should be fine, but you've got to make that split decision making in the moment. Like, do we just give up? Do we go for it? And then you just about get it with a few seconds left, and it's this clutch moment. And it's the same thing with Yakimaru. Like, before you know it, you can just lose half your team, even with a very experienced team. I think it is about those clutch moments, and those bosses offer it more than any of the others.
Yeah.
Like I find with something like AOD, if you lose somebody at the start, you're just like, whatever, just lobby.
Right.
Just restart.
Yeah, but whereas a Yaka, you can like very much make up for it and with coordination and stuff like that. Yeah, for sure. Good answers, for sure. Okay, now what is your favorite skill? That's a good one.
Archaeology.
Okay, archaeology not allowed. Come on.
Archaeology.
There's actually I have like 2, I'd say 2 or 3. Archaeology being one of them, but like mining is one of my favorites. Not for any particular reason other than when I was 9 years old and I started playing RuneScape. For some reason, I have no idea why, but I just loved it. And I wanted to get it as my first 99. It never happened, but I got to work on the mining for free work, so that was a good replacement. But I think invention's my favorite skill. I think it's one of my favorite updates in general, just because it did so much for the game. It did so much for like when it comes to game design, allowing people for optimization and strategy, which is like the core of invention perks, and then also revitalizing parts of the economy in terms of like certain boss drops, even like regular stuff like bows and whatnot, which on the regular might have not even had much of a use.
Well, there were junk items at one point, right?
Yeah, exactly. For one update to swiftly make all those relevant.
Same with Clue Rework as well, right? That did it for like you composite bows and things like that.
And that's sort of part of it as well. Is invention not only did stuff to the current game, it set up a reward space for future content. So the Clue Rework comes in, the luck stuff, or like alchemical onyx, and suddenly you've got a platform for which to build more on top of.
Yeah. then you got ancient invention and stuff and all of that.
Exactly. Yeah.
Continuously expanding, which is lovely.
Yeah, I think from a design point of view, I would definitely agree with Breezy. However, I personally not a keen fan on how you train it because I don't feel like I am training it.
Right. So the thing is with invention, right?
That's why I like
it. Right. Like it was different at the start. Like it was completely different. So that was a complete turnaround within like a few days. I think it was the right call at the time because the way it was being trained was very much favored to just chucking GP at it. But yeah, that was interesting. That was an interesting time. Yeah, invention is a great skill. I do like it. One issue I do have is, for the love of God, please don't show more love to Vindicta. My God, those poor Iron Men. You know how many hours they're spending? I just can't imagine.
Show more love to Vindicta.
Show more love to Vindicta? No.
Is that what you said? I think my
Next and Vindicta.
Please stop showing love. I know Mod Ramen loves Next, but please.
Well, Next is fully done now, right? Because it has all of the different styles and everything. Like Next probably won't ever be changed
never
again.
Nerf Rago. It was best part.
I will say that as much as I do love invention, getting perks to me is a pain, a complete pain. Like, all you see on the screen in the space of a few seconds is all of your grinding and money just going down the drain sometimes. But it's good.
Did any of you work on the ancient invention perks and stuff, or?
Yeah, I was. That was part of archaeology, so I was involved more with the design, in the early, coming up with ideas, and I didn't do much after that though. I was QA lead on the project, but that was one of our other. I don't actually know his mod name. One of our other. There was. I can't remember who actually worked on it. The specific mod names of them, but I mean, sort of. It's the long answer.
Oh, good answer. Yeah, I honestly think like those perks and stuff were like such a nice reward. I would have just personally liked a bit more variety. That would have been nice. But honestly, like archaeology as a whole was such a solid update. I don't think anyone had like, maybe there were a few minor complaints and stuff, but I think it was just very, very well delivered. It was delayed, but I think like because like for example the PVM hub came out in the meantime and that was very well received and the archaeology was so well worked on, I think people were just like over the moon with it.
Yeah.
Another thing I loved about archaeology was that you could tell that the mods took all the feedback that was given to them and it was continuously changing for the next like 2 months. And like so many quality of life things were added, even more recent with like the quick teleport to down below Everlight.
Yeah.
Like that was like one of the more recent ones, and then there's like the quick teleport to get to the under the table, and then before that we had all of the stuff like tweaks to different interfaces and like add in options like don't ask me again and just very simple stuff, but so many good stuff, making the 119 area non-instanced right after I got 200 mil on my own. Stuff like that though, that's what we were asking for and we got it, and I really liked that part. Not only was the update amazing, the feedback was listened to and acted upon like in good time, and that was really good.
Yeah, I think the whole community agrees with that, and I think it was a perfect storm with COVID as well. People needed archaeology. Like it came at the right time. Like looking back, it might have been a good thing that it was like delayed. Even if you could, in hindsight, like release it exactly as it was when it was meant to be released, I think it was the perfect storm because.
Yeah, I mean it's unfortunate, but yes, I think with the delay as well, that was. Like, I can promise you, like, that was so worth it. Like, the amount of quality of life and polishing we can get in there to make it actually feel like... Because as well as that, when it's something that we've dedicated so much time to, if we don't give it that last month or 2 months to polish it up and add those last finishing touches, then it's gonna be a bit like, hang on a minute, you've just spent all this time working on this thing, and this is what you deliver to us. Which would be more than acceptable feedback. Like, it wouldn't have been right for us to release it, and I think everyone agrees that it's probably set a standard going forward for the quality we can achieve. If the time is given, it does mean that some things will take slower to make, but ultimately it'll be a much better experience with less frustrations and easier to fix things.
So I think I completely agree. Like the quality was worth the quality was worth the wait. So the second like kind of string question to that is that because it was promised and you felt like it wasn't able to be delivered on time, etc. Is it worth like not even putting a time limit on some projects? Just being like saying, look, we're working on it. It'll be ready when it's ready, because I think people would like kind of have more realistic expectations then.
I don't agree with that. I don't think people would have realistic expectations of something if we just put a cap on it, because you don't know what's going on behind the scenes, right? If you had that visibility, if you could see us in the office saying, crap, we can't make that because we don't have time, then you guys would be fine with it, right? But at the end of the day, we're putting out a professional product. It's hard for you, and if you don't have that visibility, something comes out which doesn't work right, and it just doesn't function. The feedback, rightfully so, is just going to be like, what the hell, right? And I think it's just as game developers, any games company will, or any form of art in general, right? Be it a movie or like literally a painting, whatever it may be, has to have a cap on when it's going to be done. And we do also have that. Like with every project, there's a deadline. The decision to extend something isn't easy, because you have to, again, this is sort of the same with the weapon diversity thing, is you have to accept that there's going to be a slightly bigger gap. The fact that archaeology is going to be extended means these developers in QA and whatnot, artists, etc., are going to be working on this for another 1 or 2 months. Therefore, it's going to creep into other projects.
Push back other projects, etc. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's very worth it. I think the other thing that I don't think many players have visibility on is it's just the sort of like a term in the industry we use, which is to kill your darlings, which is to say that like there's a lot of different ideas and quality of life things, a lot of features, just even like huge chunks of designs that get cut out from projects because they won't make the deadline. And figuring out how that's all going to interact from start to finish and come into a final product is quite hard. Being able to extend it and tie up the knots on those little things, though, is what makes it completely worth it. And I think we see that quite often as well, because at Jagex we talk quite openly about the stuff we're doing, even if that might not be the case recently, if that's what players feel. But for example, the things that we might show in our game jams and whatnot, by the time they come out, certain players will be like, well, what happened to this feature? What happened to that one? The discussion that probably went on behind the scenes was, is it worth it? Can we do it? Is it viable? Is it? So using the PVM hub as an example, myself, Iago, Ryan, and Modcell, Modcamel and stuff did that during the Epic Game Jam last year, and I worked quite a bit on like the pet area.
Yeah,
if you guys remember, and when it came to us deciding to release that in January, there's a whole assessment of that, because game jams aren't by any means clean, because it's just sort of like a week, like a weekend usually. The Epic week, the Epic Game Jam was 2 weeks, but it's pretty much just everyone dig in and do your thing. So we don't necessarily follow the usual processes that we do, just because we want to kind of get to a decent stage and use it as a proof of concept. But we show it off, and we're like, okay, this is what happened. It's all work in progress. This is what we've come up with. And then come the time where we're discussing releasing it or whatever, we have to assess what we can do in any given time frame, and also assess if the time is going to be spent well. So when it comes to a discussion, for example, the pet area, that's going to be a lot of art resource, which would have taken away from archaeology. For what? Like realistically, what? I mean, it. I worked on it, so when I was told that it wasn't going to be a thing, I was pretty upset. But realistically, like most people are not going to visit the pet area that often. You're gonna visit it once or twice, take some pictures and whatnot, post it on social media and so on. And you might come back every once in a while when you get a pet, but how much does that offer to the gameplay versus, if the developers are told, right, you've got 2 weeks, go and do this.
Yeah.
They can better spend their time in an area. So it's kind of it's a kind of a trade off of like pick.
Yeah, it's
pick what
finite
you want,
resources.
pick
You
what-
allocate them where's best.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Pick what you can do
Right.
and do it. In the ideal world, and anybody who's ever made anything will tell you that in the ideal world, if things were unlimited, they'd have done everything right. But the thing is that we're so open about what we talk about that when something doesn't make it, you definitely know. But I can guarantee you, no matter what game you've played, no matter what movie you've watched, something will have been cut
Right.
along the way, which people weren't happy about. But it had to be done because it had to go
Okay.
out the door.
For sure.
Yeah. So I saw a little question in your chat earlier, Rav, about how like players influence any of these decisions, and do they?
Right. Good question.
And I think I mentioned earlier a bit about how we're always reading your feedback and stuff, and when there's a ton of people giving that same feedback, then obviously it becomes more noticeable, and it'll come to our attention. When it comes to projects, like one of the benefits of game jams is because we're quite open with them as well, and it's a proof of concept. When the community really takes to something, and everyone's like, please give us that, then we have our production team and community management who are looking at it saying, where do we invest our time? And our whole community is saying, I want that thing. We have our answer. We don't need to invest into doing research obviously we need to invest into the like what Breezy was saying, into the time costing and how much resources it's going to take and things like that. But definitely, if there's something we showcase that people are really keen for, keep talking about.
Yeah, that's definitely a powerful thing. Like people talking about things, even if we aren't talking back, just voicing your opinion on what you want to see and doing it often, it is more powerful. And when more people are doing it, is again more powerful.
Clue titles. I don't know.
Rigged.
Someone shouted it into my room.
Sorry, my headset's cutting out.
Did anyone hear that?
For sure. I get that. And that's the thing, which I think is a good thing, but there are lots of players and content creators out there with a lot of influence. And that's where I feel like it may become a bit... I feel like that system is good in general. You can tell if people really do want it, but people out there have influence and they can influence others and stuff. And it may not necessarily be the best thing for the game, but it's good that you probably definitely take that on board when you do make the decisions.
Yeah, we also consider who is giving that feedback as well, because like we're quite close with people, so we know what people want. Obviously, someone who loves clues is gonna shout, "Give me more clues!" Right?
Back.
And that's fine.
It wasn't me, dude.
that's completely fine, right? That, like, if someone wants that and like they enjoy it, that's completely fine. But a lot of things go into considering what
For sure.
Lots
of factors are taken into consideration. It's not just like a spur of the moment thing where one JMOD's like, I like that, I'm going to put that in game. It's very much like a...
No, definitely not. No one JMOD has that power, really. Unless it's like a really tiny fix that doesn't affect combat skilling, balancing, anything like that. Then yeah, maybe it can go through. But otherwise, it's quite a big conversation that has to go on.
I got a question for you, Breezy, with the ninja stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously, when it comes to doing ninja updates, there's been a lot recently, and they've been amazing, by the way. So you guys have been working hard and providing some good quality of life fixes. But like, how hard is it for you guys? Because it's like everyone knows Jagex is spaghetti code, and it's based on like spaghetti bolognese.
No.
So, like, when you're doing these quality of life updates,
Mhm.
how long do they take you, even though they look simple to do?
Oh, I mean, it's a good question. I think it affects everyone. To be honest, I don't really think it just affects Ninja, but being on Ninja, it is quite tough because and it's an issue we run into very often. It's just the nature of RuneScape, but it's like whenever a suggestion comes up, no matter what it is, sometimes that leads on to bigger considerations, which is like I'm going to try and think of one. Let's just say, for example, someone has an issue with a particular weapon, right? And they're like, can you add in this quality of life to fix it? We discuss that, and then we find out through conversations, talking to this person and that person, we're like, right. When we think about it, actually, this part of the combat system doesn't work anymore, and we want to do like a large scale shift or rework or whatever it may be, right? We run into that very often when it comes to things like interfaces, the standardization of words and whatnot. It's very hard to manage, especially on Ninja, because we have such a fast turnaround and stuff. It's very hard to manage just how far we go because we don't have the resources or the capacity to suddenly do a rework of a game system. And to persuade someone else to do that, it has to be very meaningful and it has to be very prominent to get that sort of attention. So what we have to do in Ninja is sort of do as much as we can, whilst also addressing the core issue that's there. And sometimes that has to just be us accepting that yes, there are issues. Unfortunately, we can't fix them because we don't have the capacity to as a Ninja team.
And then do you like bring them up with like the respected teams and stuff if needs be? And
Yeah, definitely. I'd say in Ninja it comes up more so with the councils because a lot of Ninja suggestions come down to combat or balancing or skilling and whatnot, and we often bring that up in the councils, like, hey, there's a problem with this particular part of X skill, and then the skilling council will take that away and discuss it, and something might come out of it, and that might lead down to deeper conversations as well. It really is dependent. Sometimes it can be, if it's an interface thing, that might go to the core experience team. Yeah,
because I can imagine trying to change something that's like done such a long time ago. It definitely isn't easy.
I think I just want to expand on that a little more because that stigma of spaghetti code, it's a very dangerous and harmful one, or can be.
Oh, really?
In that it's not true. Sure, there might be. There's always individuals in any form of development, any programming, that won't be able to write code as well as others, and that will have bad practices. But we have guidelines to follow and to ensure that the best practices for coding is in place, and that we have a healthy code base. The problem is, it is a 20-year game, so it does mean that standards change, right?
Yeah. That's more what I was referring to. Like when Breezy would have to maybe got a task from the Ninja team that was a piece of content that was made 15 years ago. Then he has to like try and fix it with the new, better system.
I think the point I want to get to is that nothing is there's not. We won't come to a piece of code and say we can't do that. It's too complicated. We can always break it down. We can always rework it, and you'll see. I can't really go into much, but in the near future, some of the bigger changes which we work on behind the scenes as part of general maintenance of the code base, to make sure that it is healthy and workable in the future. Same with archaeology, for example. We reworked the boss collection system and how you plug into that, so it's easier for people to make something. Because for that, there's a good argument there, right? It's like, okay, I can spend a month, this random number, reworking this system. What it means is we know that collections but players take quite keenly to them, right?
Yeah.
People like them. So we can say, right, we can rewrite this so that even though it was somewhat new, collections only became a thing like 2 years ago? And then we can make them a lot easier to make in the future. and a lot more robust and easier to test, and reduce the technical debt on any of them. So all of these things are very, very possible. It's just a matter of prioritizing and saying, can we invest that time? And for
Yeah,
That's
like
exactly-
I'm sure the Slayer log and the archaeology
Uh-huh.
log were slightly easier to do than the boss in
Exactly.
from back then.
Exactly.
Clue log, stuff like that, right?
Yeah, that's what it comes down to. Like, as Malaga was saying, like the idea of spaghetti code doesn't it comes up when there's like bugs or something. Like you'll be like, oh, like okay, that's just a weird case or whatever that that is a result of so many systems interacting with each other. But no one's ever afraid to touch it. The question actually is, do we have time to touch it? Like farming in Herblore, for example, that was a huge project, and farming in Herblore to 120 was a huge project that came out of the ranch as well. And like farming is an old skill, in and of itself, but the code as well is quite old. And I can tell you, there's quite a few times where Mod Orion and whatnot were just banging their heads off their desks with having to deal with such old code. The issue is, though, like we have a deadline on that project and we have to deliver content to players. We don't have time to go out our way, spend another 6 to 12 months reworking the entirety of Farming in Herblore, as much as we'd love to. But we're still dealing with what's there, and working on that quote unquote spaghetti code isn't necessarily like something that we're scared of. It's just something that plays into how long is this project going to take and what can we do with it.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
When in like Ninja's example, you brought it up, like they will pass it on to the other team. We will have a backlog of work, which is maintenance, and in that we will address these issues. And it might be a balancing issue where we're like, okay, this is a balancing issue, but it's quite low priority. Maybe we can fix it with a project in the future. But we always document these things, and there is things called like backlog grooming, where we go through and we reprioritize and we say, is this worth it? How long will it take? Can we fit her into something in the future? It's a lot more in depth than that, but as a high level overview.
Yeah. I obviously wasn't saying anything like offensive.
Yeah.
You're so
No.
Maikeru.
Not at all.
Come on.
But that's kind of what I was getting at with like old code.
Sure.
Obviously, going to be taking a lot longer to
fix,
or
completely.
not fix, but like do the stuff on compared to newer code. So
to work with,
Ninja team must probably get that a decent amount. With like when people are like, oh, what about this thing? And then you look at it and you're like, okay, that's going to take longer than expected. Maybe we'll send it to this team or whatever, right?
Yeah, I mean, also in recent years, or at least for as long as I've been at Jagex, there's almost like a certain percentage of a project is contributed to that. And I'd say the same for like Ninja as well. Well, I mean, like archaeology is actually a prime example where they rework the collection log system. There is a small amount of time that the devs and stuff are allowed to do that sort of stuff. And with every project we do, we try and assess each and every situation accordingly and ask the question, can we do it with the small amount of time we can? And they'll go through with it. When I say we didn't rework farming code, we still did rework smaller systems. Within that, the Maikeru actually got a slight rework on the background, which we didn't really talk about because nothing really changed visually for players. But things like that happen. It's the same as Ninja as well. I pretty much every Ninja job that I get sent over from a dev will be like, yeah, I rewrote part of this, and that, so make sure you check this or that. And it's an ongoing initiative, I guess, if you want to call it that. Everything we touch will get a little. Sorry, everything that we touch will get a little lick of paint as we go along, so that over time the systems are more modern.
That's really good to hear, though, because obviously that's then helping every time things are coming out to make it smoother in the future as well, which is
100%. Yeah.
I mean, I think this is a big thing which has kind of gone under the radar over the last, I'd say, at least 3 years, where we've had our core experience team and they work on rewriting a lot of systems, making them more, working on things for mobile. like I remember one patch week which wasn't really well received. It's like, oh, you've released a patch week, there's nothing good in this. Yet at the bottom of that patch week was we've reworked like 306 interfaces.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's big. Like I think it was already been spoken about on stream, but there's like an achievements rework going on the back end, right? And that's massive because of how many achievements there are in the game. But again, that's just something that the core experience team looks at. The things like movements moving and stuff like that, they might not even seem like reworks or anything like that, but that's still really core parts of RuneScape that have been modernized.
I think it's really important to touch on this. I guess there's not a huge amount of we've spoke about this in the past, but I often see, I'll go on Reddit, let's say once this week, and I saw a thread saying, or a comment saying, you should really start focusing on bringing new players in. The whole mobile initiative is for that, but what comes with that is meaning we have to modernize systems. We have to modernize RuneScape, which includes making the movement smoothing is a really important part of that. So when somebody new comes in, it feels smooth and not like the old RuneScape that we are all accustomed to, and we're all accepting of. It's really quite surprising when you actually put somebody who's never played RuneScape in a room and you watch them play.
Yeah, I can imagine that being fascinating because I've tried to get my friends to play over the years, and they all think I'm mental for playing this game because one, a lot of them, I don't know, it's hard to explain it, but like a new player experience is very much determined on like the computer they have as well, for example. And a lot of people aren't PC gamers, etc. So this game does require a decent computer to play. But people who have played it, it's very much like free to play, and the new player experience does need to take a priority. And it's a very good point that game, like the smoothness of running, is very much investing in that. I didn't think of it that way until you said that, but I completely agree with you for sure.
Yeah, it's all part of it, and it is to bring in a new group of players, which will ultimately lead to a better experience. Because I think one of the most fundamental parts of RuneScape, and well, any MMO, is the community, right? Is having people to engage in, and bringing in fresh blood is so important and exciting.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like Archaeology did some of that, right? Where I saw some of my friends come back to RuneScape for a bit, and I was like it was really exciting seeing their names pop up on my friends list, and just seeing so many people training at a place is really important. And I think I think Mod Hooley touched upon it in yesterday's RuneScape live stream. Like you only get one shot at something like RuneScape Mobile, and doing it right is the most important thing ever. And I think like a lot of people tend to compare Old School in that sense, which has been out now for I believe it's almost 2 years now. I think Old School Mobile came out 2018. Am I wrong?
I think that's about right.
Might have been. Yeah, and like the thing about something like Old School is that it's in the name. It's old school. You don't expect a modern game when you download it. So when someone comes to it and sees like like this interaction is clunky and the movement is clunky, the graphics are clunky, they're not going to criticize that because that's the whole part of the game. It's old school. It's like if I gave you a game and I said, "Hey Rav, this is a retro game from the '80s," you're not going to tell me like like what the hell? It's not got this and that. Like you accept that. With RuneScape, it doesn't really have that attached to it, and people will come to that expecting a game from what's essentially 2020, right? Or whatever year it is, and it's a very huge job to fix some of the underlying systems in RuneScape. Everything from movement to interfaces to combat to those loops of skilling and whatnot. Like that, and the team has a really tough job. That they don't get enough credit for what they do, and that they've got a lot of challenges to face, but it's a huge job, and the core experience team is doing a lot behind the scenes that will come to you guys in the future, obviously. But it's just there's a lot of great stuff going on.
Exactly like what's in the beta right now is things like interface scaling.
Yeah.
It just if a new player joins our game, right, and they've got a 4K TV, and they're like, I can't see anything. I can't see anything. Yeah. Why am I going to play this game?
You'll make your chat box a good size, but then the text is like unreadable, and then like you'll scour your mini map and then like have no space for anything else or whatever. Like there's so many random stuff with the interface right now, and the beta is what so many people were asking for so long. It's like when people were asking for what is it, like where people can share like their interfaces as well.
Yeah.
But like that type of thing probably is just so hard to do, that having like a new interface scaling to make it easier to customize it yourself is going to alleviate the need of like being able to download someone else's or whatever if it's easy to do yourself. Whereas at the moment, doing it yourself can be such a struggle. There's so many different options, so many different places, and then it's still not how you exactly want it, but you have to like make do. So it's really nice. Stuff like that is exactly what we need, and mobile's given us a good amount of stuff like that, honestly.
I think if we hadn't, let's say like mobile wasn't a thing, that team didn't exist, and we just had the current teams we do with the people working on mobile and the core experience of the game didn't exist, this game right now would be in a lot worse place than it is. Like they are so critical. This is why they exist, right? Into bringing new players into game, into maintaining the game, and giving it the best experience you can. Sure, it can always be better, and that will be forever, right? It can always be better. But like they do a lot of things behind the system, which is just optimization to make the game run smoother, to make bossing possible. And yeah, it can always be better, but it's just time and prioritization. Like they don't get the credit they deserve. I think it's the main point to me. And
they're the silent heroes.
They really are. They really are.
Yeah, for sure. Now you've mentioned it, I think now I will take some time to appreciate that, because I'm personally, I don't know if many people of the content creators, a lot of content creators think that the new game doesn't deserve any love, and I'm on the exact opposite side where I think like the new game deserves all the love in the world, because if we want RuneScape to be around for like 20 more years, we need to have new players come to the game. And not when people say new
100%.
players, I don't think people understand like old players coming back to the game. I don't know. I wouldn't treat them as new players. I would say that
No, they're different. They're different for us. We class them into two different groups. So we're talking about people who have never played RuneScape before.
Exactly.
Do you track statistics of like how many new players?
Oh yeah.
And like, do you track statistics of like how long they might play before stopping?
100%.
Everything. Yeah. We have like so many variables, which are essentially just flags in place, which tell us the exact step that they stop playing. So like when it comes to tutorials, there's every single part of a tutorial will have a flag, and we have graphs that show us where on that flag people have completed it. So out of 100% of the people who've played it, if only 70% of people got to flag number 6 and then flag number 7 is at like 2%, something's gone wrong.
Yeah.
At that point, either the instructions were terrible, or like maybe there was a crash or something like that. That we use all of that data to inform what's going on. And similarly, like we have data to tell us how long it's been since someone played RuneScape and has come back. So we know if you've not been playing for 7 months and you've just come back, and we use that to put people into a group as well, right? Because that also affects your attitude towards RuneScape. If you haven't played it in 5 years versus 3 months, you're going to have a different attitude coming back to RuneScape.
You will need some guidance, and that information allows us to say, hey, why don't you check out this new pathing system where we introduce you to some content and give you little milestones, go to archaeology, just complete the tutorial, and it gives you just some guidance to, and this is something which the core experience team, they've done a lot of the, the Birthorpe tutorial, the reworks there. And they made a system which was the guidance, the pathing system, which was then used for archaeology. So we do use their work as well to improve the content that we are developing and releasing.
Efficiency.
One little thing with the reworks recently for like newer stuff, the lesser abilities have made it so much nicer, because even just doing this random little challenge that we're doing at the moment for the race to ready, like having asphyxiate when doing vampire slayer quests Like it just felt good to be able to use my abilities
For
instead
sure.
of just having rack, and I was like level 20 magic.
You have
not having
3
any.
abilities or something.
Yeah. And now I have like all of
Yeah.
the abilities except for maybe like a handful that are like unlocks or higher level abilities. I have all of those lesser ones now and everything, and it was so much nicer to actually do a rotation as well.
Sure.
And even if it's just a new player coming in, just seeing different animations as well and stuff like that, really, really helpful. And the fact that it automatically put what you unlocked on the bar and stuff like that, it's going to help newer players for
Exactly.
sure.
I think
Yeah.
it's very easy to forget all this stuff, and even myself, you know, like I've not played a new account for a long time. Last time I did was when there was like 3 abilities at level 20 magic or something, and that experience is not good. Imagine
Yeah,
coming into an
exactly.
MMO, which is, you know, it's meant to excite you, and it's meant to, and then you get into the combat system, and you're like, I'm just sat there waiting, looking at my ability bar.
Yeah.
Um,
It's quite. It's sorry,
go
on you go.
Go.
I was gonna say it's quite a hard thing. Like teaching someone how to play a game is really hard, and as developers of games, getting it right is like a fine art in and of itself. It is like, you know, like we study games all the time. People who play games and whatnot, like I'll play a game, but I'm also doing my homework,
Research, yeah.
right? And there's so much that goes into it. Like you can probably find YouTube videos and stuff on the likes of it, but even games like the original Mario, which don't include any text or anything in it, give you a tutorial in the level design, where like the first area is empty, there's no enemies or anything, and you're just playing around with your controls. So you learn how to use the controls. You see an enemy creep up to you, so you jump on it, and then you learn that jumping on enemies kills them, and so on and so forth, right? And but when it comes to 2020 games, in the modern era of games, there's so much focus on the first few minutes of a game. Just like anything, just like absolutely any product that you touch, there will have been so much focus on the first few seconds, because that determines how you're going to use that going forward. And it's very hard to get right. Every little niggle can be the reason someone leaves the game or doesn't buy something, right? If it's like, for example, an iPhone or whatever, if you go into a shop and you pick it up and you don't like it because that one little thing that you saw as soon as you picked it up is going to put you off it completely. And it's an ongoing battle to fix that. I mean, if you think about it, like a lot of people sort of give flack for like Jagex don't care about new players or whatever. But realistically, the tutorial system has been worked on for the past 12 years, constantly.
Yeah, I get that.
And but don't get me wrong, right? It's never really been perfect. And it's like an ongoing battle of it's more iterative than just putting something out and getting it right. So I was on the project which introduced the lesser abilities and stuff. We called that the first time player experience project, which was just between weapon diversity and ComCape rework. I was on that for a couple of months with ModPy and Mods 2 and stuff. And what that was supposed to be was just step one. And then we put it out and we'll get feedback and we'll look at the graphs, as I was mentioning earlier, about where people dropped off and whatnot, and then iterate upon that. Right, what could we do better this time? Put that out. Okay, iterate on that again. Which part doesn't look right, and so on and so forth.
It's over time process, right? Yeah, I'm quite strong. One of those people who feel really strongly about the new game and free to play experience because, like, for example, I've done challenges in the past against people where you make a new account. And like doing that, you really experience a lot of like the issues that new players would face. Like, for example, initially it was just training at trolls until like, I don't know, like level 50 or something. And I don't know if it's still the meta now. Maikeru's had like a bit more experience on that. But like also like free to play being filled with bots and like no real social interaction, where because there's so many few players at that level, they don't get to experience the core part of the game, which is the community. And like on old school, it's a bit different because you all start off in the same place, and it's like an instance world of Tutorial Island where every single new account is there, etc. You see like people playing the game and stuff. I'm just happy it's being worked on. I wish it was like taken and I wish I had a bit more priority from someone who wants to see the game like grow in the long term.
Well, yeah, I mean, like it definitely has had that priority. Like as I think it was Iago mentioned earlier, like in preparation for RuneScape going to mobile, that's one of the biggest things because that's a whole new audience right there, and that first time experience has to be right. Yeah, exactly. So it's by no means ignored or anything. That whole team, the whole core experience team is all about that core experience, right? But yeah, I can appreciate like as someone who we're all veterans of the game. We all know it very well, and we know the sort of downfalls and whatnot. And to be honest, even us playing the game again, we even forget why someone might be turned off to something, right? I've been playing my Iron Man recently, which is relatively low level. Then there's things that I will just do, not even thinking about. But if I give that to someone else, even if they're a gamer, they'll be like, "What the hell?"
For sure. I think like maybe the release of Evolution of Combat is a really good point of what you mentioned. Like the first impression is so important. That's why like I don't really mind that mobile's taking ages, because if it comes out and it's amazing and it's incredible, it will do so well for the game rather than like releasing a clunky product.
For sure, it's also important for the existing players, right? You, me. If our first experience is just like, actually, there's a sort of. I'm going to use myself as an example here. I don't like mobiles
Right.
at all.
Right.
Like I am the worst person to contact on a mobile. I don't know what it is. I'm useless. And the idea of me playing RuneScape on my phone, when I heard it, I was like, no, thank you.
Yeah.
Don't care.
Yeah.
But as time progressed, and trying it out and seeing the experience go better, because obviously I'm playtesting it, and I'm a brilliant type of person to. We need those playstyles, right? We need somebody who's not keen on it and actually trying to change their mindset to be keen on it. It's very important to. I sort of lose my trail of thought here. It's
to have that opposing vision, right?
yeah, and then ultimately change my opinion to say to think actually RuneScape on mobile is pretty good.
Yeah.
I'm going to use it more than often. Otherwise, I might. If that my experience was, I don't like mobiles anyway. So why am I going to like RuneScape on mobile? And then I try it out and I don't like it, then I'm not going to go back to it. I'm just not. So if that first experience is really improved, then I might have more luck, and I'll be able to make more progress on the goals I set.
Because necessarily like the very, very early game isn't like the best ever content in this game. I think like I said, the community is a massive part of it, and like if you quit before you get to that part, you may actually have loved this game more than you could have imagined, but you don't get to that part because of you're put off by it. So yeah, 100% agreed with you guys there.
I always think about this, and I wish I could just like wipe my memory clean of RuneScape and just come at it for the first time with like a few friends and see what that experience would be like.
Right.
It'd be so strange.
It would, but I'd be. That thought excites me.
I get that for sure.
Yeah,
I get that with Harry Potter a lot. I wish I could read the Harry Potter books again without not knowing what happens. That'd be pretty amazing. Right, well, it's been such an amazing conversation. Like, I've really got so much out of it, and you guys have been incredible. It's just to put it in context for those who will like eventually watch this and listen. It's like literally 9:30 on a Friday, so these guys have like given up so much of their time, and honestly, I'm very grateful, and I know Mike is as well for sure. And yeah,
I didn't even realize the time.
Nah, neither did I.
well, I suppose that means you're having fun, which is good. So maybe the date is successful.
Yeah,
Maybe a second date. What?
It's a yes from me.
There you go.
Me and Mike are going out again.
Yay!
But yeah, like you've covered so much, and you've given a real insight into everything that we've asked. So thank you very much on my behalf for sure. And Mike, any questions that you want to ask, or are you happy to wrap up?
I think we've spoke for far too long now, looking at the time and realizing. Jesus Christ, it's been really, really fun though. I
Yeah,
appreciate it.
sure. And anything from you two that you want to say? I don't know. Even either me or Mike will upload this, so people will see it for sure.
Sure. I mean, I do appreciate this opportunity, and you guys obviously producing this this content for people. And yeah, I mean, if we are agreeing to a second date, then I am for that as well at some
Hell
point.
yeah, hell yeah, dude.
It's been nice, and I do look forward to it being uploaded and seeing how people found it. And
Yeah, we'll put your we can plug your Twitters now. We should do that at the start. Actually, I'll do that at the start as well. But just because it's important, because people should be able to
hold on.
reach you, right? So, hello.
Rav, wait, right, hold on. You're gonna have to cut this bit out and then
Okay.
put it at the start, right? Follow me on Twitter, Jagex Breezy.
For sure.
follow me on Twitter.
Yeah, there we go. Done and done. Perfect. Anything else you want to say, Breezy? Or you good as well?
No, just the same as Iago. Thank you guys for asking us to do this. Like, it was really great to see you guys pop up and ask, and I hope that we've been able to give insight.
You've given everything and more. So.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's definitely great to have this this little discussion. I think the one thing that I wanted to say earlier on was just in terms of feedback, because we spoke about feedback previously. I think just one little bit of advice, which I got myself when I was in uni learning how to give feedback and whatnot, is there's a medium to meet when it comes to feedback, and we'll look past like the negativity and positivity sometimes, right? If we want to get to the core stuff, if you want to give the best feedback, I think part of it is explaining why you might not like or even like something, as opposed to just saying you don't like it, because that can give us the insight. We don't even necessarily need a solution. We just need to know what the issue is. So saying, I don't think this works because so and so, that gives us so much insight into why you feel a way. But the other part as well is like telling us why you like something is also equally as valuable, because that means we can feed that into future things. If we know why people love archaeology, if we know why people love this part of an update, even if you don't like the whole thing, if you just love one part, voice it, because that means we can try and implement that feedback into future things. And I know that gets looked over quite often. The sort of like no news is good news sort of thing, right? Sometimes, but even when things are going good, let us know why you like something.
That's only fair, because people will definitely let you know when things are bad. So it's absolutely correct that we should, like, for example, with archaeology, everyone was over the moon, and like we let the JMODs know that they did a great job, etc. So 100% agree.
I mean, it'd be really good, just anyone watching this, like, if you've got comments, think about that, and like maybe even just try and action it in your comments to say, really enjoyed this video because, or I really disliked Iago because.
Yeah, okay, I like that. That's very good. Little life tip for people. If you're going to give feedback, also a good thing with feedback is you should always list the positives first. That's something I've been told like many times. Like, list the positives and then move on to the constructive feedback. And then and also like never ever target JMODs personally. If you do that, you're an idiot. And like, don't get personal with it. Treat them professionally, and you'll get treated professionally back. So
yeah, we are human. I definitely feel sad when I see certain people being targeted, right? Obviously, because I know them on a personal level, and honestly, I can guarantee like 100%, there's no one single person responsible for a single change. So to put that energy into one person alone isn't very fair. These decisions and discussions happen between a lot of people,
and every single one of those people really care.
Yeah, that I mean, we spent hours doing it, right? So,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much, guys, and we'll see you on the second date. And if it does get to the third date, then we'll take some precautions.
We might have to take a trip somewhere. We might have to go to an exotic.
Oh hell yeah! Hell
place
yeah,
for that
dude,
one.
Nando's. Let's do it.
Whoa,
Ooh,
that's a good
ooh,
shout.
yes,
Man,
yes,
I know
please.
Mikey loves Nando's as well, for sure.
Who doesn't?
Absolutely. Right, well, thank you very much, and take care, stay safe, and wash your face, wash your nose, and yeah, goodbye.